In this video we're going to be looking at some of the economic and social costs of inequality. Before we do that, I just wanted to go through two questions. First of all, explain one reason why the government might intervene in a competitive market to redistribute income. This is quite a difficult question. You really want to focus on what it means by a competitive market here and why that requires the government to intervene. So the government intervenes to redistribute income from higher to lower income earners because even in a competitive market economy, so without government intervention, so define that, it will naturally result in huge inequality of the distribution of income and a Gini coefficient that's quite close to 1, so market income is quite inefficient. And this is because a pure market economy relies on the profit motive to drive economic growth, and only individuals that can contribute to the production process, so those with skills or talented individuals or entrepreneurs, will generate higher wage. In contrast, those that don't have those skills are unable to earn an income. That would include the unemployed, and that would leave them with zero income if the government didn't intervene. So the government has to intervene in the competitive market because of the wide disparity that would exist in a competitive market because of the profit motive and people only getting paid based on their skills and contribution to production. Using one example, explain how the government might intervene in a competitive market to redistribute income. The government will use taxes and the transfer system to redistribute income in the economy. For example, they might use the progressive tax system, which results in higher income earners paying a large percentage of their income in personal income tax compared to low income earners. So they use the progressive tax system, which basically means high income earners pay a higher percentage of their income. In some cases, low income earners earning less than $80,200 will pay less tax. The money raised from those in the higher tax brackets is used to provide welfare for those in the lower tax brackets. So really explaining clearly how the income tax system works in Australia, with high income earners paying a higher percentage of their income and low income earners paying very little tax and collecting welfare. Alright, now we're going to look at some of the social costs of inequality and some of the economic costs of inequality. So our first social cost of inequality, when we look at social costs, we're talking about generally non-monetary things. First one is helplessness and despair. Those that struggle to get a job or are more likely to be in poverty or unemployed are more likely to experience problems with helplessness and despair. They're also more likely to experience mental health problems. So feelings of depression, feelings of like they're outcast from society. It may impact on their relationship with family and friends because they can't contribute to society in the way that they would wish to. It can also lead to social unrest, as low-income earners may become marginalised or outcast from society and may even resort to crime. So that would be another social cost. So they feel helpless, in many cases, more incidents of mental health problems, more social unrest. And it can also lead to a class system where we've got high-income earners and low-income earners that generally don't socialise and experience sort of different lifestyles, and that can impair the level of social harmony within society. Other social costs. Inequality can lead to conspicuous consumption. What that basically means is low-income earners might purchase expensive goods to signal wealth or status, to try and break down the barriers of social disharmony, and that can lead to them spending beyond their means and too much debt, which is more an economic cost. It can lead to wealth inequality because people in high income earners might inherit money or wealth, and that can lead to an even bigger discrepancy in terms of the income of high income earners and low income earners. It can lead to inequality of opportunity because low income earners might not get access to education or health, and therefore that class system continues to grow because of the lack of opportunities available to low income earners. It can also lead to guilt or helplessness, and this is a bit of a wishy-washy type one, but people can feel sad, or this idea of middle class guilt, where those people that do have access to goods and services feel bad because of there are people living in poverty or helplessness. That would be another, technically a social cost associated with high levels of inequality. So then the social costs. Some of these social costs can actually lead to economic costs, so they can affect the budget, they can affect Australia's material living standards. So for example, if there's a lot of crime going on, that can lead to more crime prevention ads, which costs the government money. It can, if people's health is deteriorating because of a lack of opportunity to healthcare, that can lead to more expenditures for the government trying to promote health. So for example, in the Northern Territory, if you've been there, there's a lot of ads involved, particularly targeted Indigenous Australians, associated with improving, helping with their hygiene, helping with, there was a campaign running last time I was there about, helping the children to blow their noses and things like that. That's the government spending money to try and, I suppose, improve the level of health amongst citizens with less income. So that can put taxation pressures because it increases the government's outlays. It can mean spending cuts in other areas. So if they're spending more money on crime prevention and health ads, they've got less money to provide subsidies for companies. It might involve them having less money to spend on education. It can also lead to reduced tourism and export income if the amount of poverty affects if there's more beggars or the socio-economic status is worse. That can technically affect tourism and export income as well. Right, there are also economic costs associated with inequality. So we talked about the social cost, now we're talking about the economic cost. The first one is the cost to the government. If there's a lot of people living with low incomes, it's going to cost the government and taxpayers more to support them through welfare, and that may lead to higher taxes, and it may lead to budget deficits. So if there's more people that are unemployed, that can lead to problems because they have to be, provided with income, and that reduces the amount of tax the government's got for other areas. So this could lead to cutting spending on education or health or other productive areas. Another economic cost is because low-income earners have the highest propensity to consume, if the money's going more towards rich people and less towards low-income earners, it can lead to reduced aggregate demand because the rich people are more likely to save, which is a leakage. The low-income earners are more likely to spend, and therefore the level of consumption in society can actually be reduced because of the gap between high and low-income earners. So the second problem is that it reduces economic growth because low-income earners have the highest propensity to spend. And the third thing, so one, it costs the government, one, it can reduce aggregate demand, and thirdly, there is lost satisfaction from the law of diminishing returns. But basically what we're saying there is the low-income earner is going to get more out of the extra dollar than the high-income earner. So a more even distribution of income would maximise the value of income because the low-income earners would value it more. So if we give money to the rich and steal from the poor, then they're not going to get as much satisfaction from that, and therefore the overall satisfaction from income is lower. If we have a more equitable distribution of income, because the low-income earner is getting more out of that income or benefiting more from that in terms of their satisfaction, that is better for our society. So economic costs, one, cost the budget. Two, cost economic growth because low-income earners are more likely to spend. And three, the low-income earners enjoy their money more, so we lose from the law of diminishing returns. Thank you.